and this is my colleague Joe, and we both work for the UK's largest construction company, Balfour Beatty. And Joe is going to talk to you about life as a quantity surveyor. So Joe, what does a quantity surveyor do?
There's quite a few things that a quantity surveyor does, but as a broadsheet, I'm a legal advisor for a construction company. I'm their accountant, and we go all the way through from procurement all the way through to organising subcontractors on site. So everyone that comes on site has been arranged and got into contracts to make sure that everyone is in agreement and working to the law and to legislation. And then if any disputes arise, making sure that they're dealt with in a sufficient manner and everything that's agreed, and then going through and completing a final account with subcontractors. So you go all the way through from procuring them, so getting them on site, agreeing contracts and terms and conditions, to when they're on site, making sure that they're carrying everything out legally and to the correct quality and to the time frame that's been agreed, and then going through and agreeing a final account, so making sure that what the work they've done, the cost associated with that is justified. So that kind of goes all the way through for subcontractors. So that's other people that we bring on site to actually carry out works, because really Balfour Beatty don't really carry out any works themselves. They manage it, so they employ other people to do it on their behalf.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's a very broad role.
Yeah.
And actually very interesting, because you've got lots of different elements to it, haven't you?
And we're one of the few roles that actually, on top of project managers, that deal with the client. So their engineers don't deal with the client, and site managers won't deal with the client, whereas quantity surveyors do. So it's having that professional interface with the clients and making sure that they're happy and they're content with everything that they're paying for, and making sure that going upstream as well with the client, that we're recovering all the costs that we should be getting paid for as well. So on a monthly basis, I put in what's called an application for payment. So I ask for the money from the client, and hopefully they pay it all. Because that makes everyone happy, because obviously everyone goes to work to get paid, and the same as businesses go and carry out things for money. So it's a lot of what I do is dealing with money and having conversations about money. Okay,
brilliant, fantastic. So when you were at school, was that when did you think that you wanted to be a quantity surveyor? What did you want to be at school, and what made you go down the quantity surveyor path?
Do you want a funny answer or the serious answer?
Go on, give us a funny one then.
Okay, so when I was in primary school, as everyone did, you went to parties and there was the appropriate clown there making balloons into animals, and we all stood in a circle and they went around the room for everyone and said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And being an introvert and not very good at public speaking, even just saying 2 words of what you wanted to be, it wasn't sufficient, and got it mixed up in my head. So it got to me and I blurted out that I wanted to be a fire engine. So
what an achievement!
I know. Gonna grow lights and sirens. But
so that didn't happen, obviously.
No, obviously not. So yeah, it's construction, something that I've grown up with my dad's been in construction, and so it's something that I've grown up with, and I've always been kind of going around and seeing sites that he's been working on. So it's having that insight and being able to go on site and see things being built and kind of coming out of the ground, and something that was never there before was something that really fascinated me. But then as I grew a bit older, I realised that I wasn't much of a fan of getting my hands dirty or standing out in the cold. So it was looking at alternatives that I could still be part of building things. I was always a fan of Lego. So constructing things and making things work, but being able to sit inside and drink coffee
Very wise.
Rather than getting wet.
Excellent. So what made you think quantity surveyor? You just had a look at websites, did you? And then you just thought that a quantity surveyor was something that would appeal to you?
Yeah, so there was at the school that I was at, there was a good team of people, and I did quite a bit of work experience with construction firms.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I went and sat with like the engineering department for a week, and one of them was a quantity surveying role. So it was kind of an insight of actually I'm quite good at numbers, and I quite like the formality of everything that they're carrying out, because it is there's quite a lot of legal terms, so it's black and white, and you're trying to mitigate any grey areas. That kind of twigged in my mind as actually I quite enjoy doing that, and that like obsessive nature of wanting everything in its slot and making sure that if you can do that, then you mitigate any issues when people come on site.
Superb. So if I wanted to be a quantity surveyor, how would I go about doing that? What was your route into it?
So once I'd gained GCSEs, and I then went and did A levels. Now, when you go through UCAS to go to university, it specifies what kind of courses they'll accept as A levels, and it's worth having a look at those before you choose your A levels if that's the route that you want to go down. But I went to university. You don't have to, but it's the cleanest route, I think. And it meant that I got away from my parents and had a bit of freedom. So I went to university. I did a 4-year course, which is known as a sandwich degree.
Okay.
So the sandwich degree, it's not as good as it sounds. I wasn't going to work for Greggs and eat sandwich. It was a case of I did 2 years at university full time, and then I went and did a year in the industry. So an employer took me on as a trainee, and I did a whole year in industry, but got paid for it. So they paid me a really good salary. I was working away from home, so they paid me a bit more money, and they funded everything like they would any employee. So my last week there, I had like a debrief interview with them, and they offered me a job when I had finished my university degree. So before I'd done my final year at uni, I'd already got a job lined up a year in advance.
Wow.
To go into. So when you hear about all the stories of people kind of doing a whole year or a whole course of university for 3 years or more, and then they go and work in a pub and nothing relevant to do with what they did at university. My degree was quantity surveying, and that's something that I've then gone into straight away before I'd even graduated. So there's different things to go down. So you could do, if you're lucky enough, you can do part-time university, and if you're really lucky, you can find an employer that will pay you for your course. So they'll pay you a salary, and they'll pay you through your tuition fees.
Right.
So at the end of it, you have no debt, but you have a degree, which is probably worth £50,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a massive incentive if you can get on them, and it's probably something that Balfour Beatty would offer if you contacted them and were interested.
Excellent.
But that
on the
course,
Balfour Beatty Careers website, you can see everything that is available for in that respect there as well. So. And
obviously your degree will take slightly longer because you're there for 1 day a week rather than being there full time. Now you don't have to go to university, but there are quite a lot of companies now asking for you to have a degree to be able to fulfill the role of a quantity surveyor.
Okay, fantastic. So when you actually applied for the role, how long does the process take, to apply and eventually become I suppose was that relevant for you because you had the job lined up, or?
Not massively relevant. I obviously had to apply to go and do my sandwich year degree out with them, and that was a case of going and having a chat, really, in an interview setting for about 40 minutes, deciding whether they liked you or not and whether you got potential. And then probably a month later, a letter came through saying, "We'd like to offer you the job." So it's quite a quick turnaround, and it was the same starting with Balfour Beatty 9 months ago. It was kind of on the day they said that they wanted me, so it's not a very long, drawn out process.
That's brilliant. Okay, Joe, thank you. You've given us such an insight into it. So finally, would you recommend being a quantity surveyor?
I would, yeah.
Excellent.
Definitely.
And why would that be? Just because it gives you such a broad, it's an interesting role, isn't it? So many different aspects to the role.
Yeah, and it's that element of management as well. So it's changing every time. So I've worked in numerous different places, and if you're interested, then it can take you around the world. So there's obviously a lot of buildings going on in places like Dubai that are one-offs, absolutely marvelous, and you can be part of that. And you can go absolutely anywhere. So with Balfour Beatty, we're an international group. So if there's a requirement and you want to go out into America or you want to go to Hong Kong, they've got that broad spectrum of places to go.
Yeah, world is literally your oyster.
It really is.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Joe. That's absolutely brilliant.
You're welcome.
Thanks then.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.